The coffin was already being lowered when a hoarse scream tore through the quiet of the cemetery, cutting sharper than the winter wind. Mourners froze, priests faltered, and black umbrellas turned toward the voice no one expected to hear. A garbage collector, his boots still stained from the morning's work, stood at the edge of the grave with terror in his eyes and certainty in his heart. What he knew would stop a funeral, expose a terrible mistake, and change lives forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that truth can come from the most unexpected places, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because people like you still believe humanity listens when it should. The woman in the coffin was Margaret Whitmore, a billionaire philanthropist known across the United States for her hospitals, scholarships, and quiet generosity. Her face had filled newspapers for decades, always calm, always distant, framed by power and wealth. When news broke that she had died suddenly after collapsing at her estate in Connecticut, the nation mourned. Politicians sent flowers. Executives bowed their heads. Churches rang their bells. The cause was listed as cardiac arrest, swift and final. Or so everyone believed. Everyone except Daniel Reed. Daniel was a Christian man in his early 40s, a garbage collector who worked the pre-dawn routes around Whitmore's private medical wing, a restricted facility built on land Margaret herself had donated years earlier. He lived a quiet life, raised by a praying mother who taught him to listen closely to what others ignored. His job made him invisible to most, but it gave him something few noticed: access to the discarded pieces of powerful lives. On the morning Margaret was pronounced dead, Daniel noticed something wrong. Medical waste bags from the estate were lighter than usual. No emergency response debris. No signs of frantic attempt to save a life. What he did find was worse. A disposal tag stamped too early, paperwork inconsistent with confirmed death. It stirred something deep in his chest, the same uneasy feeling he'd learned never to dismiss. As the days passed and preparations for the grand funeral unfolded, Daniel couldn't shake what he had seen. He prayed about it, lost sleep over it, and finally made a choice that terrified him. He would go to the funeral. He didn't belong there. The cemetery was filled with luxury cars, guarded by private security, attended by the elite. Daniel stood out immediately, his plain coat and nervous posture drawing quiet judgment. He was told to leave. He tried to explain. No one listened, until the coffin began to descend. That was when Daniel shouted. The words burst out, and before fear could stop them, he claimed Margaret Whitmore wasn't dead. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Security rushed forward. The ceremony halted. Chaos replaced dignity. But Daniel didn't run. He stood firm, shaking, driven by something greater than himself. Authorities intervened. The casket was raised. Medical professionals were called back in disbelief and irritation. What followed stunned everyone present. Margaret Whitmore showed faint signs of life. Bare, fragile, but real. She had been in a rare condition known as locked-in syndrome combined with hypothermia. Her vital signs, so weak they had been mistaken for death. An error born from haste, assumption, and the unchallenged authority of wealth and protocol. Daniel's insistence had saved her life. Margaret was rushed to the hospital she had built, surrounded now not by ceremony, but urgency. Days passed, then weeks. She survived. When she finally woke fully, the world she returned to was different. She learned of the funeral, the mistake, and the man who stopped it. She asked to see Daniel. Their meeting was quiet and unpublicized. Margaret, once untouchable, now fragile, listened as Daniel explained what had driven him to act. He spoke not of heroism, but of responsibility, of faith, of refusing to throw away what others discarded too easily. Margaret wept as her strength returned. So did her resolve. Investigations uncovered negligence among her private medical staff, driven by assumptions and unchecked hierarchy. Policies changed. Lives were spared in the future because one ordinary man had dared to interrupt the powerful. Margaret used her influence differently now. She funded training programs focused on humility in medicine, accountability, and listening to frontline workers. She endowed scholarships in Daniel's name, not because he wanted them, but because she wanted the world to remember that truth doesn't always wear a suit. Daniel returned to his job. He didn't seek fame, but his life changed. People looked at him differently. More importantly, he looked at himself differently. He understood that God had placed him exactly where he needed to be, not to be seen, but to see. Just before this story reaches its end, take a moment to comment below. Share what part of this moment stayed with you the most, or who this story reminded you of. Your voice might be the one that encourages someone else to speak up when it matters. Months later, Margaret stood at a podium, alive and steady, speaking not as a billionaire, but as a survivor. She spoke of listening, of humility, of the danger of dismissing those we deem small. She never finished a speech without mentioning the garbage collector who saved her life. And Daniel? He still worked before sunrise, still prayed quietly, still believed that every life, no matter how silent, carried purpose. He had stopped a funeral, but more than that, he had awakened a conscience. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that courage doesn't require status and truth doesn't wait for permission, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps stories like this alive. She's not dead, he said, and because one man refused to stay silent, death lost its certainty, and the world remembered how powerful an ordinary voice can be.